Hello and welcome to the third instalment of the Sweary Teacher's Guide to Wellbeing podcast. And it's a Sunday before the Monday of the new term, and no doubt lots of you have got inset tomorrow or are back in the thick of it straight away with kids. January's shit, isn't it? So, I mean, I'm sitting here in my gym wear as if I've done some exercise. I haven't done any exercise. I have. I've thought about it though, and I've also thought about the half stone I've put on over the last sort of 3 or 4 months because of enjoying food. And thinking, January is a good time to restart, isn't it? And to try and sort that out. But no, I've made no efforts today in order to do that. But that's fine because rest is also good. So I'm taking a moment to appreciate my child-free day because they're with their dad today, and have some time to record another podcast for you. So getting a nice little collection going, which is great. And yeah, I kind of completely appreciate how you feel being an educator for 24 years. Um, I was out of school for 18 months, missed it, went back in. So yeah, I'm now a day a week. So I don't get quite the anxiety that you guys do and I used to get in terms of that new term feeling. Because on a day a week, I can kind of put it to one side and then leave it for a week and then come back to it. But yeah, it's still in the back of my mind. I've still got a to-do list as long as my arm, and I've still got stuff that I haven't managed to do last term, which is going to creep up on me, I know, when I get back to work. And I am doing an extra half a day as well this week because of inset and stuff like that. So yeah, I completely empathise with all you guys who've got that Sunday anxiety before you go back to school tomorrow. And yeah, it is rubbish, isn't it? Absolutely shit, because January is that time, like it's almost like the autumn term. It always felt to me like the time for like getting going with stuff and moving forward and having good intentions. And then you get to January and you're like, oh, so much I didn't manage to do. And I think over the years it's felt like there's been a bit of an increased sense of urgency in January just to get going with everything in school that you should have done. So although like schools pay lip service to that fact that well-being is really important and stuff like that, and start as you mean to go on, all that good well-being intention that happened in September, it's kind of a bit dulled down. And, January comes around, and yeah, definitely people have that sense of urgency about getting everything done, particularly if you have, that you're in that impending Ofsted window as well, which never enables anybody to sleep well at night, does it? And it really shouldn't be like that. So, I completely empathise with your situation, if in that respect, and how you're feeling, and if you're feeling a bit wobbly and anxious on the Sunday before we go back to school the next day. So what can you do to support yourself? Well, it's unfortunately, unless you are in a school, the minority of the schools where well-being is a massive priority and everything's going well. And when I surveyed the Swery Senko group, I had to say about 20% of people said that it was all good in terms of in terms of their well-being, and their school leaders are endeavouring to provide everything. And I know if you're a school leader, I know how difficult it is to go from nothing to really good well-being as well. So it might be that you're on that journey and you're not there yet, which has its own set of difficulties, doesn't it? But ultimately we're kind of in charge of our own well-being, because nobody else is going to sort it out for us, are we? So if you're not in one of those schools where you feel really well looked after, it's doubly important, if you want to stay in this job long term, that you really start looking after yourself a bit better. So I mean, what might that look like on the ground? Again, it's making those promises to yourself about leaving 15 minutes early, maybe every like one day a week, or at least earlier. Say early. Obviously, you've got to be bound by your directed time rules, etc. But maybe 15 minutes earlier, by saying no to things in a constructive and professional way, but not jumping in, being a yes person, just making sure that you are putting in your boundaries. And if stuff comes up in a staff meeting that you just know is not acceptable or good, or is not for the benefit of everybody in terms of work-life balance, then actually making a bit of a stand, maybe not like a loud, massive fuss, but just in your own way, how you'd rather do it. Just start making a stand. A collective stand is even better in terms of supporting each other and your colleagues in ways that you means you can take back to senior leaders of why things aren't going well, why the well-being isn't being as done as well as it could have been, and what you want to do personally to improve things, because it is about a collective effort at the same time, but ultimately it's still about your personal ideals, I guess. And it is just a job. And I think that's something that I've learned over the years. It's taken a lot of years for me to learn this. But, having had several well-being nightmares over the years, it is just a job. Um, it was the most important thing to me, apart from my husband at the time, my partner. Um, yeah, obviously he was my life, and then my job was not the most important to me as well, other than that. And it wasn't until my children came along and I actually sort of reflected and went, actually, maybe there's maybe there's more to this life than just working. Who knew? So, if you're in that mindset of the job is everything to you, then it's probably about time you started looking outside of your work and thinking about maybe hobbies that you need to rekindle, and putting yourself first, because self-worth is really important. And I think a lot of our souls, when we're teachers, we're altruistic beings. We're giving, 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 and the school and the education system are taking, 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 and we don't put ourselves first. We tell ourselves we put ourselves first, but actually, if we keep deep down to the core of it, actually, we've got a situation where we just want to help everybody. We do more work to make ourselves feel better in the short term because we know it's going to be less stressful overall. But best will in the world, the work's never done, is it? So you're just piling more and more on yourself in terms of things like that, and senior leaders making you feel guilty, and that side of things as well. So just really reflecting. And if you are someone at the moment who is feeling a little bit anxious and wobbly, just easing yourself into it gently, be kind to yourself. And I know that's really easy to say when you've got 30 children turning up tomorrow morning, and some of them are not going to have had very good holidays, and you're going to have to be mopping up the situation that's gone before as well. But you need to have robust systems in place in your school to be able to support you in order to do that effectively as well. So it is an ever increasingly demanding job. So I just wanted to have a little chat to you about the emotional scale as well, because our personal emotional scales are really, really important. So being happy in the moment in your current situation means that you can sort of draw more positive stuff to yourself, basically. So if you have a negative mindset generally, then you're kind of pulling in negative stuff, and then you have a positive mindset generally, then you're kind of pulling in a magnetic kind of positive stuff. But it's really difficult to then move yourself up the emotional scale, because obviously when anxiety and worry kicks in, that's a really worrying time for you, and it's really difficult to see the wood for the trees and to kind of think outside that a little bit. So if you Google, I use Abraham Hicks emotional scale. Abraham Hicks is a channel for those of you if you're feeling a little bit spiritual and want to listen to a bit of Abraham Hicks. It's just a kind of a collective channel for the collective in the ether, basically. And she's got the emotional scale side of things in order to think about feelings. And if we're higher end of the emotional scale, that's when we attract all the good stuff to us. And if we're the lower end of the emotional scale, we're kind of trapping ourselves into that spiral of negativity. So you can download this as a poster or whatever. So I'm just going to go through the 22 areas of emotional scale, and then you can just consider where you are on that emotional scale. And the idea is you don't go from 22 to 1, because it's the bottom is like fear and grief and powerlessness and despair. So you can't possibly get from that way of thinking to suddenly feeling joyous and happy. And yeah, anyone who suggests that you should just think a bit more positively, probably you want to give them a bit of a slap, don't you, really? Because there are those people who just say, oh, I think more positive and everything will be fine. It's not going to go that easily if you are, in the depths of despair. So it's about thinking about those small increments of improving your feelings about your general life. And that might mean some big changes to your life, but it's up to you to empower yourself in order to do that. So let's just go through that emotional scale, and then you can think about where you're kind of creeping up to, where you are, and where you want to be this term in school. And obviously, we're on different emotional scales for different things. So you might want to be on a one with your relationship, you might be on one with your work, you might be on one with, I don't know, weight loss, for example. So there could be different emotional side of things that link to different stuff in your life. So just have a think, though, particularly work related to start with. You can always reflect on the other things later on. So 22. This is the lowest of the low. Hopefully, none of you are feeling this. If you are at this end of the spectrum, I really suggest that you reach out and get some help. Feel free to message me. Feel free to contact education support. They're always there to support as well. So, number 22 is fear, grief, powerlessness, despair, and depression. And we are all in that pit of despair at times. Things happen in our lives that cause that, but that is kind of an area which is really difficult to pull ourselves out of, and sometimes needs a little bit of time, a little bit of help to do that. So 21, we've got insecurity, guilt, and unworthiness. Still not great. 20, jealousy. Some of us feel a little bit jealous at times, don't we? Particularly perhaps relationship wise, if we're trying to get somebody else and then they get someone else, it can get a little bit messy, can't it? So jealousy does rear its ugly head generally, but it is quite a negative feeling. So, you've got to feel all your feelings still, though. So make sure you're feeling it, but actually kind of understanding if you're triggered by it, and then kind of developing a way in which you can start feeling better about the situation and not kind of wallowing in it. That's the important thing. So then after jealousy is hatred and rage in at number 19. So hatred and rage is also the next one up, as to say, is pessimism. And then not, number 18, 19 is revenge, and 18 is anger. I'm kind of putting those together because actually being angry about something is higher up the emotional scale than being powerless and feeling despair. And people don't like you when you're angry about things. However, it's actually quite a powerful emotion and actually better than those lower down feelings. So people would prefer, if you're sad, for you to be quiet and sad in your room where nobody notices you. Whereas if you're angry about something, it means that you are proactively doing something, doesn't it? And it's not pleasant for anybody else because it can be loud, it can be sweary, and people don't like it. So they prefer you to be sad and upset away from them quietly. And yeah, if you get to the anger stage, people might be like, "Oh no, I preferred you when you were sad." So don't listen to them, because actually it's really important that you go through the anger stage to get to the next bit. So we've got 17, we've got discouragement, we've got 16, blame, 15, pessimism, 14, worry, 13, doubt, 12, disappointment, 11, overwhelming, 10, frustration, irritation, impatience, 9, pessimism. So they're all pretty negative, aren't they? But they're gradually going up and up. And I'm expecting that a lot of you are feeling in that area on the Sunday before the Monday, before the new term, particularly like the worry side of things. You might be feeling pessimistic about what's to come. You certainly, if you're not overwhelmed now, by lunchtime tomorrow, I expect you probably might be. So you might be feeling overwhelmed about stuff, frustrated about those non-negotiable lists are no doubt going to come out and bite you tomorrow at some point. Oh, apologies in advance if that's you. Irritated and impatient because why am I sitting in this staff meeting when I could be getting on with sorting my classroom out? And hopefully you'll finish tomorrow feeling energized and looking forward to the new term. But some of you may be feeling a little bit pessimistic. So at this point in the emotional scale, this is when it starts slightly improving, because number 8 is boredom. Now, boredom is obviously really boring, isn't it? And if you are in a state of boredom, generally, I've been there in my life, everything's nice and stable, nothing's really happening, but you're like, I think I need to rock the boat a bit, because actually sometimes when things are negative are happening, it kind of gives you a sense of purpose, doesn't it? Even if something's slightly bad, you think, well, I'm just gonna work hard to sort this out. It gives you some purpose. But boredom is kind of a little bit difficult. But I don't know any of us in education can actually say we're bored day to day with what we're doing. I think overall we can think about, I've been in jobs where year 5 of the job, I'm thinking, I've done this year over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day. And I think to the end of being in class, I'm like, oh, there's not much I haven't seen. I say say to people now, over the years, I can't count how many times I've told children to be quiet in different ways, and it's just a bit boring after 20 odd years doing it. It's just the same thing over and over again. So if that's you, then yeah, boredom within your role, wanting a little bit more of a challenge. It might be a promotion. You might need to just have a change of scene, get a different school, have a different way of doing things, get a promotion, move out altogether, possibly, just to sort of alleviate that boredom slightly. But actually, let's look at the positives of boredom. If there's nothing happening, then there's nothing bad happening. So we can take that as a good thing as well. So next up on the scale is getting better now. We've got contentment. So hopefully lots of you are very content in your life, even if it's not in your school life, content in your life in other ways, etc. So that's a really good thing to be. And then we've got number 6, hopefulness. Number 5, optimism. Number 4, positive expectations and beliefs. Number 3, enthusiasm, eagerness, and happiness. Number 2, passion, passionate about what you're doing and you believe in something of the cause, etc. And I certainly, at various points in my career, I've had this feeling, which is absolutely amazing. And that's when all the ideas come in and you're thinking, like if I'm writing my books now, I get really passionate about it and I'm in the flow state and everything's working. And it's increasingly difficult to get into that state these days. I think with all the television we watch and all the YouTube, etc., like you're doing now, 20-minute bite size of stuff, it's quite difficult sometimes to actually concentrate for longer than that. And, think about how difficult it is for our children if we're having difficulty in that area. But yeah, definitely having a passion for something and drives you forward, doesn't it? And then, of course, number 1, top of the emotional scale, we've got those feelings of joy and appreciation, empowerment, freedom, and love. So that's what we're all aiming for. And if we can get that sort of that end of the spectrum in our day-to-day life, then we're on a kind of upward trajectory to kind of improve things and then just pull in positive things to us. But if you're down the worry and doubt phase, you can't jump to joy and passion and happiness automatically, can you? You've got to go through a few more phases before you do that. So don't worry if you are down with the doubts and the worry and the pessimism. Just reflect on it, take it for what it is, don't beat yourself up over it, and then just gradually work towards the next one up, basically. So if you are feeling doubtful and overwhelmed, then perhaps you can just try and move up to frustration and irritation a little bit, maybe. Or if you're feeling bored, then you can just think about a few things that you could change in your life to move up to sort of contentment and hopeful. So again, it's quite a nice, I mean, it's not exactly linear in terms of those feelings, because sometimes you'll have like a revenge feeling, anger or revenge, and then also you'll have boredom at the same time. So it's like they don't always go in a linear fashion, but it's kind of a best sit, and you can just think about where you are on different subjects and then where you want to be and what you might need to move through to get to that. So yeah, so if you want to download that poster from the internet, if you just Google Abraham Hicks emotional guidance scale, then that's really going to help you as well. So that's just something to consider for you moving into the new term. Also like to recommend Adrian's book and Emma's book, Teacher Wellbeing and Self-Care. It's just a little book. There we go. And yeah, I really like this book. It's not too thick, as you can see on the camera there. And it's got some nice reflective areas as well. So you can use it as a little journal. You can write in it. And yeah, if you're just listening to this and not looking at it, I'm just holding up some pages for you. So if I just go through the chapters about what there are in the chapters. We've got chapter 1, how can I keep my values and moral purpose at the forefront of my professional role? So exploring sense of purpose in the workplace, being aware of your morals and values. So reflect on those, because that will help you decide what you want to do next. Chapter 2, how I can maintain a sense of perspective as well, really important. Chapter 3, how I can manage my workload effectively and efficiently. So thinking about reflecting on those things. Chapter 4, how can I handle stress and take care of myself? Chapter 5, how can I foster positive relationships? lots of note down sections as well. Chapter 6, how can I exercise and promote agency within my role? Sometimes this is really difficult if you're not a senior leader as well. If you're the head teacher, it's much easier, isn't it, to create the climate in your school. But if you're a class teacher or a Senko, then sometimes you're the kind of the perpetual middle person and you're kind of stuck in many ways. So, but you can still have some sort of ownership over that within your role and how you fit into that. So it's really important to consider. There we go. And then there's lots of other resources as well in there as well. So I would recommend that, the Teacher Wellbeing and Self-Care Guide, the little guide by Adrian and Emma. And that is published by Corwin as well, if you want to have a look at that on Amazon. So that's one thing I would certainly recommend for the new term. Other than that, if you go on my CPD group and find my courses, then there is a wellbeing one already there for teachers if you want to download and have a look at that. I've also got a live one coming up, and it's all about a little bit like what I've talked about to start with, empowering educators and cultivating that personal well-being and positivity in challenging times, because it's not actually getting any easier, is it? So this will be on Zoom, and it is in February, and it's going to be the 20th of February 2025 at 3:30 p.m. £7 a ticket. So if you want to sign up to that, that's on mycpd.com, and I'll put a link in the comments as well for you to be able to sign up to that one. And yeah, if you are watching it after that time, and then it will be available to download on my CPD website as well. So I can put the website there. But basically, learning in that session how to prioritize your well-being without feeling guilty about it, some simple strategies to create a balanced, fulfilling work-life routine, the power of positive thinking, and a bit of law of attraction for those of you that are into that side of things, to transform adversity into opportunity, practical self-care tips to reduce stress and recharge your energy, and also all wrapped up in a healthy dose of realism. And I expect there'll be some swearing as well, because best will in the world, it can be really, really shit, and you you just want to tell people to fuck off after time. But if you're thinking that in your head, don't let that come out of your mouth. Maintain that professionalism. So just have a think about how you can do that. So yeah, January sucks. You get through these 3 weeks, keep your head down, keep positive, keep moving forward in the right direction in terms of moving and sorting out your boundaries and what you're willing to put up with. Keep reflecting on your practice and your school's practices to just consider what you want to do next and how things are going, and if things are getting any better, etc., etc. And yeah, just look after yourself, and also cultivate those relationships at home as well and with your friends and family. Don't let them fall off the wagon just because you're back in term time. You do deserve to have a life outside of school, definitely, even on a school night. Dare I add, even on a school night. So just making sure that you're looking after yourself and putting yourself first. And as I said, any problems with your well-being, etc., feel free to DM me, and also think about contacting education support if there's anything else that they could help with. If you're feeling a little bit wobbly, that's absolutely fine. So thank you for joining me today. It's been great to record this one, and I shall be back next month. I don't know what I'm going to be doing yet, but no doubt something will come to me. So hopefully you'll enjoy your first few weeks back at school, and good luck with everything. And yeah, have a look at the Sweary Teacher on Facebook, and also the Sweary Senko as well. And there's also an EYFS version as well, and also Positive Young Minds, which is my website and blog with lots and lots of stuff for educator wellbeing on there as well. So thank you for joining me today, and catch up with you soon.